From desktop to voice, the evolution of search. I'm Tanya Hall for ZDNet, and joining me is Christi Olsen. She is the head of evangelism for search at Microsoft. Welcome, Christi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
What does head of evangelism do at Microsoft?
It's sort of a fun job title. I like to explain my role as I get to be sort of the public face of Bing and the search engine, out within the industry, different marketing events and different events throughout the year.
Bing is one way of searching. So Microsoft is assisting us in finding the information that we need. What percentage of search does Bing actually have?
So right now within the US, Bing has about 33% market share on PCs, and across PC and mobile devices, we're coming in right around 25%. So it's more than you would have probably imagined, right?
Absolutely. And is that strictly from web-based search, or does that include IoT devices?
That's a little bit of both. So you mentioned IoT, which when you think about the IoT type of devices, typically that comes in through Cortana and our voice search capabilities. And that includes the Harman Kardon speaker, which is our essentially Alexa or our Amazon Echo type of device that you can search off of.
So how are digital assistants and voice actually changing search? I mean, are we moving away from traditional search into the Internet of Things search world?
It's starting that shift, and we've been seeing the shift happening over the last probably 2 years, where if you asked 2 years ago a consumer like, oh, do you search using your voice or do you search on these other devices, the adoption levels are pretty low. But as we start to look at it, we're seeing over 50% of the population are using voice search, as well as I think of the IoT devices divided typically between your car as well as those smart home speakers. We're seeing really large gains in engagement off of those type of devices, and people are more comfortable and confident asking questions and with the type of responses and answers they're getting. It's not perfect, but it's been getting a lot better.
It was funny, you and I were talking before the interview started, and you had mentioned that you could tell where someone was from by search spelling and by literally how they pronounce words. Talk about that.
Yeah, so when we were getting started, you asked me about, and how did you say it? Because I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Cortana. It was.
I'm not going to admit to anything.
I think it was like Katana. And so when we start to look at some of the search query data, we get a lot of information just based on inflection, how people speak, and how that gets translated through or natural language processing into search queries. So you can learn, is English the first language? You can tell partially based on sentence structure and how they construct words and the questions that they're asking. So you get a lot more depth and granular information through voice search and through digital assistants because the type of query is shifting and changing. The other thing that's really interesting is it's almost like you and I are talking. It's much more conversational in nature. So when I go to my laptop or my cell phone, I might type in the word weather. But when I'm at home in the morning, I go, hey, Cortana, do I need an umbrella today? I ask a question that's really saying the same thing, but it's in a much more different conversational format.
Now, Christi, you're in Seattle. I think the answer is pretty much always yes, isn't it?
About 90% of the time. Today, we didn't need it.
There you go. How is artificial intelligence and machine learning helping deliver some of those search results that consumers want then?
Well, it's interesting because I hear this question quite a bit about artificial intelligence. Is Microsoft using it? It's like, yes. What's crazy to think about is the biggest user of artificial intelligence at Microsoft actually is Bing. It's the search engine. You think when you type in a question or you speak a question and you ask it, that is all machine learning and AI on the back end trying to predict what you're going to say. You've seen search recommendations so that as you're asking the question, it's typing up, we think you might mean this. And that's all AI in the back end. And then it also looks at user behavior and user data. What have you looked for before? How have you engaged with the results? What is relevant? What is not relevant? And so it is all AI on the back end that's driving overall search behavior.
What is the role of Cortana in the future as you're looking at search and some of these, changes that are happening right now in the way that we search and the kind of search needs that we have? What are you predicting maybe in the next year as far as changes in your software?
Well, when you think of Cortana, Cortana is a personal digital assistant. So she's there to essentially help you be much more efficient with what you do and how you do it. So I use Cortana to help me organize my day. So we had the meeting today. So she let me know, hey, by the way, you need to run out of this other meeting early because you need to be at a hardwired connection to have an actual interview. So she's helping me organize my day. The way we like to think about it is Bing is the intelligence platform that's powering Cortana. So when you ask her a question, she can go out to the knowledge graph, all the data, all the information within the internet and the world, pulling that information in to get me better results. The other thing that's interesting at Microsoft, how we're thinking about this, is it's sort of shifting the graph. Within search, we talk about the knowledge graph. It's the entities. It's everything in the internet connected together. But now we're creating a Microsoft graph that connects the knowledge graph from the internet to a personal graph based off of LinkedIn, all of the data we have about a person and individual, to also the personal graph based on how you engage with different devices, how you engage with Microsoft tools and technology. So as we're starting to merge what we know about people, places, and things into a single system so that you can be much more proactive, reactive, and engaging with customers to really help them do whatever it is they're trying to do.
What trends do you actually see in search right now?
Depends how you go there. There's a lot of different trends happening. So we're starting to see that things are much more conversational in nature. So like I gave the example, we're asking a lot more questions and the questions are getting a lot longer. So if you're a marketer and you're trying to figure out, well, what does that mean for me? It's that you no longer can you have to be thinking about the questions your customers are asking about products, services, devices, so that you can provide better responses and better answers. If you're a developer, it means you also have to start to think about what are the questions that your customers are asking about those products so that you can work with your marketing team or your content team to provide better answers. And let me give you an example. So I worked with a local automotive manufacturer and one of the local dealerships because they were seeing a ton of queries come in specific to a recall on their products. And so we worked with them to help them understand how do you create content to answer those questions, because they're coming in not only on PCs and desktops and through text search, but through voice search as well. And customers were trying to get to the heart of making an appointment to have their vehicles looked at. So we're seeing that consumers are shifting of just asking questions to be much more comfortable of taking an action. And it's an interesting trend that we're seeing here at Microsoft. We think it's going to be where the future is going, is consumers, like text versus voice, it's an input. The desired action is to get the answer to the question, to do that thing that's at the heart of what you're trying to do. So like for me, if I'm asking about, my vehicle had a recall, I need to know, do I need to take that vehicle in? Can I get the appointment booked? Can I get it booked based on my availability? The digital assistants essentially have access to all that data and information on our calendar and our schedule, so that they can help bridge the gap. So I can say, hey, is there a recall on my Ford Focus? Yes, great. Go ahead and Cortana, you take advantage and you know my schedule. You go ahead and book the appointment, set the time up. So all I need to do is say, great, I need to drop my vehicle off tomorrow at 2:00. And Uber, show up and pick me up so I can get into work.
Yes, Uber, show up. Okay, the other thing that I'm hearing a lot from the team and the people at Microsoft is all about Microsoft culture. What role does collaboration play in the modern Microsoft world environment?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because I'm a boomerang. So I'm somebody that was at Microsoft in the early to mid 2000s. I left to just go out and do the tech startup world, and then I decided to come back. And the reason I came back was because of the culture shift that happened, where it was less focusing on competition against each other within our work environment, and it was how do we work together to solve these really big challenges we face. I'd rather compete against Google as Bing than compete against a colleague or a coworker. And so the culture shift has been, how do we work together and take the work that I'm doing, and our evaluation system's down in 3 areas: the work I do, and then how other people take my work and expand upon it, and how do I take their work and expand upon it. So collaboration now is at the heart of everything we're doing, and I think it's really helping us make better products. It's helping us do a better job of understanding how we work together, and also helping to answer our customers' questions.
It sounds like you guys have been able to start breaking down those silos over the last few years. Congratulations on that. If somebody wants to connect with you, Christi, maybe they want to find out more about search or just connect with you personally, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the best ways right now are LinkedIn and Twitter. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Christi Olsen, and then you can find me on Twitter, CHRISTIJOLSON is my handle. I'm not the comedian out of Canada that says wildly inappropriate.
Good to know. Thanks for the heads up on that. And thank you so much for being a guest with us today and explaining some of the things that are happening with Microsoft and search. Now, if you want to connect with me, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or maybe find me on Twitter by searching for @TanyaHall Radio. I love to chat. I want to hear from you. Find me on Facebook by going to the Tanya Hall Show, or go to my website at tanyahall.net.